Salute Met fans. What's good? It's Uncle Freezy. It's a Sunday afternoon. Just coming through to hang out a little bit, answer some questions, talk about the off season by David Stearns and Steve Cohen. To go over a few things. Were holes plugged? Were holes created? What does the lineup look like? What does the starting pitching look like? The starting rotation look like? What do the guys look like from returning from injury? What do the young guys look like in their development? What do the older guys look like in their regression? Just want to talk about a few of those things just really quick. I want to start with really quick my concern with Marcus Semien. Right, as a longtime baseball watcher, viewer, player, whatever you want to call it, guys at Marcus Semien's age, to me, don't generally seem to turn back the clock or get better. Right, Joe, what's good, man? It's good to see you, man. Guys, Marcus Semien, traditionally, guys, Marcus Semien's age don't turn back the clock. They don't get better. Generally, at his age, you see guys tend to be in the forever struggle of fighting for all the time. Right now, is Marcus Semien a great defender? Is he a good person? Is he a leader? Oh yeah, absolutely, all that stuff, right? So this is not me. I'm not here saying that I don't like Marcus Semien, or this is not me saying that Marcus Semien won't contribute this season, won't contribute significantly this season to a successful Mets season. This is me addressing the concern of 35-year-old infielders, middle infielders, and how their decline is unpredictable. Now, with that said, I just watched a few moments of the Brett Boone podcast where Marcus Semien was a guest. And just like a lot of others around baseball, and I feel this way too, but I'm uncertain. But I feel as if Marcus Semien is a young 35, right? I feel like Marcus Semien is a young 35-year-old. At least he seems that way, seems spry, still athletic, still can do a lot of things. At the same time, when your birth certificate says you're 35, that means you're 35. Right. And so my concern is this: can we get a median performance from Marcus Semien? Can we get like a Marcus Semien that's going to bat about 250, that's going to play great defense, better than most defense at second base? Can we get a Marcus Semien, or are we going to get a Marcus Semien that's going to stay healthy so that some of the other questions that we have on the roster can stay low priority? Because if age tends to catch up to Marcus Semien at second base, then the other questions that we had that were low priority becomes higher priority, because this issue becomes higher priority, and it creates a domino effect, right? If Marcus Semien can't stay healthy, if his production drops, now we're having questions like, can we move him in that contract? Can we have him do other stuff? Can he play third base instead of second base? Can he bat eighth instead of batting sixth? And all these different type questions. That was one of my major concerns. One of the thoughts that I had on my mind is that, can we depend on Marcus Semien at second base. Because for the most part, for the last few years, maybe second base has been an issue for the Mets since it's been a long time. Since we've had a dependable second baseman that was a great defender, a really good hitter, veteran guy that we can depend on every day. Even when Daniel Murphy played second base, we had defensive questions, right? When we have Acuna play second base, we have offensive issues, right? But at the same time, now that we have Marcus Semien there, we seem to have a veteran that's going to be solid offensively, very good defensively, and dependable. A great leader, right? Now that my Marcus Semien thing is out of the way, and I bored y'all half to death about me and Marcus Semien, right? Now that I have bored y'all to death about Marcus Semien, I have been watching the spring training videos of our Mets pitchers, Jonathan. I just watched Noah McLean again, and so I want to address Noah McLean from a player's standpoint, from not from an end game scenario, but from a looking at all the moving parts, the dissection of Noah McLean. So I watched a couple of these spring training pitching videos. One of the things that I noticed is that in these videos only, just in these videos only, I'm not saying this is what it's going to be like come June, July, August. But what I noticed is he has a riding fastball now that I saw his fastball last year, and it was an above average fastball. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was an ace's fastball with its speed and movement and in the way that he spotted it. But watching the videos, what I noticed, and if you're a Noah McLean fan, what you know is that he can spin it. Like when he gets here, he can spin it at the end, which creates those revolutions like most pitchers can't get off the extension. Like from here to here, everything looks fundamentally sound, and then at the end, there's like this whip, whatever he does to get more revolutions on his pitches. Most people can't do that. If they could, they would already be doing it, right? What I noticed though is from here, and this is just off spring training videos, whatever, right? I'm not saying I wasn't there in person, live breakdown and that stuff. But what I noticed is off of this extension here, he's got a fastball that kind of darts in on the right-hand batter. Like it comes in and it stays, like it looks like it's elevated, and then it darts towards the right-handed batter. And I don't know if he's always had that or if that's something that he's worked on. Right? Why does that matter? Why does that, if you're facing Noah McLean in that righty-righty matchup, right? Why does it matter that a riding fastball, a fastball that kind of gets up, elevated a little bit, then darts towards the right-handed batter a little bit? Why is that important, I guess, is what everyone is asking. Well, it's asking because, while it's important because if they know that in their mind that he can throw that pitch in that same window, that means they can't dive out over or dive out to get his sweeper pitches, if that makes sense. Like if you know you have to stay, if you know you can't dive out to get those pitches that kind of sweep away from you, because there are pitches that'll be like chin music for you, it makes both pitches more effective, right? It makes both pitches effective. Because if you're looking for the sweeper only and you get that pitch that darts back over the inside corner of the plate, that's called a strike. Now you're neutralizing, you may paralyze batters in certain at-bats, which is, if that is what it is, if he added that pitch, if that pitch is added, I'm telling you, that's the difference between him being an ace and him being one of the best pitchers in baseball. Because in theory, there are probably about 40 aces in baseball. Like, there are going to be, some teams are going to have 2 aces, and it's not fair. Like, some teams are going to have 2 or 3 guys at the top of their lineup that could be the number 1 guy for another team. Right? It's just what it is. Some would say the Mets are one of those teams right now with McClain and Freddie Peralta. Others would say the Mets may have 3 of those guys if Kodai Senga can just stay healthy. If Senga can stay healthy, then he may be in that conversation also. I'm not for sure how you guys feel about Senga. I feel like Senga is an ace. I'm not down on Senga after coming back and looking terrible after an injury that wasn't even his fault. Right? I'm not down on Senga. I am where I've normally been. I don't think he's a Dwight Gooden type pitcher. I do think he's a Ron Darling type pitcher, if that makes sense. Right? Like y'all know how Ron Darling was great, but he wasn't as good as Doc. That's where I feel like Kodai Senga is. Like, he's not a number 2, 3, or 4 pitcher. He's definitely a number 1, but not a solid number 1 on a team that has a great number 1. For basketball fans, I think he's a Jaylen Brown on a team that has a healthy Jason Tatum, basically. But the Noah McClain thing is interesting to me, because if McClain is that guy that has added this to his arsenal, because maybe it's been there. Maybe that pitch has been there the entire time, and maybe it wasn't as effective as it should have been. Maybe. But watching in a low pressure, low leverage environment where you're pitching to your own guys, everybody's fresh from the winter, nobody's tired. You know, you have all these extra bullets in your arm that you're trying to get rid of. You know, you're trying to get your arm to peak when the season starts. That pitch looks impressive. I don't know what you call it. It's just it's a fastball with a little dart at the end. It's not I don't think it's a cutter like Rivera throws, because it doesn't have that that in cut action, or that super straight action that will break bats. And it's not a fork ball where it's an off-speed pitch that starts here and it dives to arm side, right? It just darts arm side, which is amazing to me that you can do. But at the same time, for a guy that can get all these RPMs on his sweepers and other pitches, having him be able to do that with a fastball shouldn't be mind-blowing, right? I want to also what should a starting rotation look like? If you were to build a rotation, what do you want your rotation to look like? Right? Is your rotation gonna be, say, Is your rotation going to be built on as much arm talent as you can possibly acquire, or is there some nuance to it? I'm gonna ask the chat, how would you like your rotation to look? Do you just stack as many starters as you can, or is there a functionality to it? Chat, I'm gonna ask y'all, I'm asking X and YouTube, what do you want your starting rotation to look like? How do you want to build your starting rotation? Hey, our mind is amazing. What's good? Again, man, I love that avatar, man. I love that. I've been a Devils fan since when did I've been a Devils fan for a long time. Let me just put it that way. Maybe since like 80, maybe since like 85, 86, something like that. Oh, that's Team Canada? That is Team Canada. I see the maple leaf. Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see it. My bad, bro. My bad. My bad, brother. I'm human, bro. My bad. Yeah, that is Team Canada. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, man. I'm not a Penguins fan. I'm a Penguins franchise fan. Like I'm a fan of the franchise, like how they got the team, all the stuff that the franchise went through, and all of that stuff, man. I'm a huge franchise fan. In terms of the team itself, what they put on the ice, I can't be that and a Devils fan. It's just no, it's just not happening. No disrespect, right? But I am a fan of how they came up with the idea of having a penguin be the mascot. I love the story of the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's a fascinating story if y'all have time to check that out. And so Armand says, my rotation is Peralta, Peterson, McLean, Holmes, Senga, Manaea. That is interesting. That is interesting. That's very interesting. I'll tell you what my rotation looks like. My rotation is in the one spot, a proven veteran ace. That's what I want as my number one pitcher, right? In my two spot, wow, look at this. How do y'all feel about this move? I'm gonna ask y'all this, but I'm gonna talk about my pitching rotation, right? And then you'll see. Then once I name my rotation, you'll understand why I'm in that mode. My number one pitcher in my mind has to be a veteran stopper. One of the best pitchers in baseball, a veteran guy that I can throw against any other pitcher in a game 7 type situation. That's my ace. That's my ace. Now, what I like in my number 2 spot in the rotation is my ace in training, usually a prospect type guy, usually a usually a young Jacob deGrom, a young Noah McLean. My thing is I like whoever my young elite arm is, I like for them to be in that 2 spot. And if I don't have one, then basically what I'll do is if I have a ace that's left-handed, I'm throwing a right-handed, my best right-handed starter after him. So in the case where the Mets have Freddie Peralta, that's the ace, then Noah McLean, to me, is the pitcher that I want to pitch second, right? Because he's an electric young arm. And what I like to do is protect both of those pitchers because they're talented, but I like the bullpen protection of what you're going to do for your ace and your second pitcher. Bullpen is important, right? Bullpen is important. I want to have my best 2 arms at the top of the rotation. I want to have my my Noah McLean as my second pitcher, and not just because of say a thing. I think there's a proven formula that works, right? In my third pitching spot, I'd like to have a guy that's going to be a series winner. For instance, say we played the Dodgers say we go to Chavez Ravine, and your first 2 pitchers are McLean and Peralta, and your third guy, and we split the series. The Dodgers win game 1, we win game 2. I want a guy that can dependably keep us in a game where our offense and defense can be a factor. So maybe he's not the best pitcher on the staff, but say if we're going to Philadelphia and Philly wins Friday, we win Saturday, and then Sunday night we're throwing a guy, our number 3 pitcher. I want a guy that I can depend on to keep us in a game, right? So that our offense, say we could depend on Soto and Lindor and those guys to maybe bash our way to a series victory, right? Or the bullpen can come in and just shut everything down. Our third guy has to be Mr. Dependable, if that makes sense. So 1 is ace, 2 is highly sought prospect, 3 is Mr. Dependable. Mr. Dependable is super important because on travel days, you want a guy that's going to keep you in a game. You don't want to mess around and leave Florida. You don't want to lose a series 2-1 to the Florida Marlins, right? That's basically what I'm getting at, right? Like, say if our ace wins Friday and our young guy has a hiccup Saturday, and then our third guy is super, he's got to be Mr. Dependable. Yep. Yep. You see it? Yep. And so I'm saying how I build the rotation first, and then I'll plug the names in later. But I really would like this scenario, right? Like the third guy has got to be our pivotal guy, right? And I know in some cases people would say, "Hey, man, David Peterson is very dependable in that spot, and he's a lefty, and he eats innings." I would really rather for that to be either a former ace that's maybe coming back from injury that has that ace type stuff, right? Or a young pitcher that has the ace stuff already and he just needs experience, I would love it to be that. Now my fourth, the fourth spot in the rotation is the easiest one. I want a guy in that fourth spot that's gonna get 180 innings. The ERA is important, but I need for my fourth and fifth guys to save my bullpen. Right? If their ERA is 3.8 something, 4.1 something, cool. I'm not going. If their ERA is 4, but they'll get you 190 innings, hey man, you might be MVP for the you know what I'm saying, for the vibe MVP, not the league MVP, of course. But if we get a guy that can hold a team to about 4 runs over 7 or 8, where we can bash our way back into a game or keep ourselves in a game, then they're the MVP. The fourth guy, especially the fourth guy. The fourth guy, we want you to stay healthy, right? Stay healthy, stay consistent, and regardless of the team that you're facing, you can't face the Dodgers and give up 7 runs and then think because you faced the Marlins and you only gave up 1 run that matters. No. You've got to be in that range of where we're asking about, right? We need, for the fourth and fifth guys, we need innings eaters, right? Innings eaters, right? We need guys that are absolute. And I know I said this, I'm just reiterating. I know, but I'm passionate about this, the way a rotation is built. I think we need a guy that's going to keep our ace and our top 3 pitch, basically keep our top 3 pitchers in good places, right? Because what we don't want to have is every time our ace is pitching, every time my ace is pitching, he's trying to break a 3-game losing streak. Like, we don't want that. You don't want your ace always going out there trying to dig your team out of a hole because the back end of your rotation didn't eat innings or save the bullpen. And so pitcher number 4 can be the vibe MVP if that ERA is around 4 or slightly less, but chews up a ton of innings. A ton. If that fourth spot can get us 7 innings over 28 to 30 starts, that's about 200 innings. About somewhere between 190 and 210, somewhere. So we can get a guy that can hold it down, right? And keep our aces from always feeling like all 30 of their starts feel like a game 7. That'll save the rotation. That'll save a bunch of arms. And Armand says, one important thing is to see how McLean is pitching. Yeah, and that will also dictate where he is slotted in the rotation to protect him. Right. Yep. Right. Because for 2 things to your point. One thing is super important. One thing is super important about that. Confidence for young pitchers is paramount. Confident for young pitcher is paramount. Right? So one of the things, for give an example. If Jonah Tong didn't pitch If the Mets didn't have so many injuries, and I know a lot of people said this, and I know you guys have heard this, a ton of times already. I just want to reiterate this with this audience to let y'all know that we're all on the same page. If Jonathan didn't pitch in the majors last year, he may right now be the #1 pitching prospect in baseball, right? But he did pitch in Major League Baseball last year. And teams did get him into predictable fastball counts. And teams did tee off on him in predictable fastball counts. Now, is that his fault? No, it's not his fault. He still needs some seasoning, right? I don't think he's a major league starter at the moment, not until he gets a pitch that can keep batters off of his fastball. Or unless he does something with his fastball that dominates major league hitters. Maybe there's a fade to it or a jump to it, or maybe the arc of it is not a straight line, right? Maybe it's not a laser beam. Maybe it has some run to it. Maybe it has some hop to it. Maybe it has some dive to it, right? But even us, guys, even us, keyboard warriors and fans, if you let us see enough fastballs in a straight line, we can hit them. Right? That's just the thing. Even us as keyboard guys and Mets fans, sports fans, if you give us enough opportunities to learn how to hit a fastball that comes in a straight line, we can hit fastballs. If we know where they're going to be every time. If we know where they're going to be every time, and that's the Jonathan issue, and that's the confidence issue. Like the difference between a pitcher that is a young pitcher that's confident and a young pitcher that is not confident. And to the Noah McLean and the WBC thing, keep in mind, and this is where things may get a little explosive for the Mets and Noah McLean. If Noah McLean in the WBC gets hit, and he will, because he's facing the best lineups these countries can put on the field. He's basically facing an all-star lineup from every country, right? So he's going to be, and I know their schedule is going to be different, but you understand what I mean. Every country is going to put their best offensive lineup on the field, right? And if somehow Noah McLean can come out of that clean, I think it does a ton for his confidence and things in spring training. Now, there are the other factors. There are the outliers. If Noah McLean goes to the WC and gets rocked, if he goes to the WBC and gets rocked, now we're having a different conversation. We don't think that's going to happen. We hope that's not what's going to happen. At the same time, if that happens, how do we deal with Noah McLean's confidence when he returns to spring training, and how we mold his career arc from that point going forward? It's a question. If he goes to the World Baseball Classic and gets rocked, and it may happen, I am in the conversation of, or I'm in the mindset that Noah McLean, even if he got rocked in the World Baseball Classic, he's not going to see an all-star lineup from every country once the season starts. He's going to face the Pirates. He's going to face the Nationals. He's going to face the Braves, Phillies, Dodgers, Cubs, all these different teams. And their lineups are going to be up and down. And so he'll get a chance to regain his confidence. But what if the other scenario plays out? What if Noah McLean goes to the World Baseball Classic and dominates? What if he goes to the World Baseball Classic and dominates? then what questions do you have about McLean then? Let me see here what's going on with our camera. Sorry about that, everybody. Had a camera issue. I'm not for sure what happened with our camera issue, but sorry about that, everybody. But what happens if the Noah McLean goes to the World Baseball Classic and and has success? What happens if he goes and has success? Now we're in the conversation of, did we find is our guy ready? Of course, it would be too early to tell, but at the same time, it would be an interesting conversation. And Joe says, McLean's numbers in the world McLean's numbers in the World Baseball Classic should not keep him from making the team. No, he's going to make the team, bro. Joe, I'm with you. He's going to make the team for sure because his stuff is there, right? The physical gifts are there, right? What we would be working on are the experience level, stuff that will determine whether he's an ace or not. And Armand says, if McLean gets rocked, it depends on which team rocked him. I won't be worried if he gets rocked by DR because they're loaded. Yeah, DR, PR, yeah. Japan, maybe, depending on, there are some teams that are just going to be good. Venezuela, you're like, okay, they have a bunch of really good, if those teams are still participating. I'm not for sure who all is participating, but yeah. So there are levels to it for sure. There are levels to it for certain. My thing is though with McLean, if he's added these pitches and such, I think he'll be fine. Ultimately, I think he's going to be fine. I don't see a world where a guy as talented as McLean and Tong, excuse me, and Tong also. Those guys are so talented, they'll be fine. The main thing they need is experience. And then plus the Mets have so many experienced starters that if they need to skip a start just to catch their breath, we'll be fine. Right? Like if we need to, like if Jonah Tong needs to skip a start or maybe go down to AAA for a month or start in AAA, and maybe we don't see him until June. These guys agree. It's if Jonah Tong needs to catch his breath and Christian Scott jumps into his spot for a little bit, man, the Mets will be fine. Tong will be fine. Scott will be fine. Everything will be fine. And these guys are so young. Remember, we were talking about pitchers that are 25 and under. And generally, great pitchers will pitch close to their 40s. Elite pitchers will pitch into their 40s, but great pitchers will pitch close to their 40s. Like McLean and Tong, they're not even close to reaching their full potential. They're just starting out. They're just on the road. Right now, Christian Scott, on the other hand, at age 26, I think, I think Scott is 26. I think he'll be Christian Scott, remember everybody, was the Mets' #1 overall prospect for a minute. Like before all the Acuñas and the Jet Williams and the Brandon Sproats and the Jonah Tongs and the Noah McLeans and all that, there was Christian Scott by himself. Right? There was Christian Scott by himself. Remember, Christian Scott, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, all those guys are around the same age. Right? Christian Scott is the same age as Beatty and Vientos. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Remember, Christian Scott was our prize young top prospect for a minute, and we loved him because he, on the major league level, his thing is, and I'm gonna get back to the young guys, but I just want to say this because I want to draw a comparison. It's not fair, but I think it's accurate. It's not fair, right? And it's gonna sound ridiculous when I say it, but it's only for a model or an example or a template for us to frame the conversation, right? There was a long time ago, right before I was born, like, or maybe like right when I don't know, maybe around the time I was born, right? The Mets had Jerry Koosman, Tom Seaver, the Matt, I can't remember his Matt something, and Nolan Ryan and somebody else. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly. Matt something. I can't. John Matt something. I cannot remember his name for some reason. Matt, like, yeah, there you, there you, yep. There you go, Joe. Thank you, man. Thank goodness y'all here, because I would not have remembered that man's name, right? But all these young pitchers were different. Tom Seaver was an ace. We knew it, right? We got Tom Seaver in a coin flip with the Atlanta Braves, right? Tom Seaver out of USC was going to be the top prospect. He was going to go to the Atlanta Braves or New York Mets. The commissioner had a coin flip. The Mets won. Tom Seaver is a Met, right? Then you have this guy that throws 200 miles per hour, and this is hyperbole, right? Then you have a guy out of Texas that throws 200 miles per hour, but he can barely get it over the plate, right? He can barely get it over the plate, right? And people are like, golly, bro, if this dude would ever get it over the plate, right? Bro, yeah, if this dude can ever get over the plate, he could be as good as Seaver. Well, the thing about that guy, his name is Nolan Ryan. He was from Texas, and he was a fireballing pitcher. You couldn't hit him, right? The only thing is he would be dominant. Like, Nolan Ryan was a dominant pitcher, right? Dominant. The only thing is when he gave up a mistake, his mistakes were huge, right? Like, the only thing is when he made mistakes, they were huge mistakes, right? Like, you throw a fastball, like you throw one 99 or 100 over the outside corner, it bleeds back over the center of the plate, and somebody hits that ball 450 feet, right? And so enter Christian Scott, right? I'm not calling Christian Scott Nolan Ryan. What I'm saying about Christian Scott is that he is in that same template of pitcher that can dominate over and over and over, but lose his control during the game. And it's nothing to do with the batters, the conditions. If he's tired, he just loses it. Like he just can't regain the repeatable thing. And the catcher can go talk to him, and the infielders can come and hit him on the backside, like, come on, big dog, you got it. It's he loses that thing, right? That repeatable motion, that thing. And it's not that he doesn't have the mental fortitude to bear down and do it, right? Because if he's dominant over a certain number of innings, then of course he can do it, right? But somewhere he just loses that, right? And I'll give and I'm gonna just put Christian Scott on hold for a moment and give you the opposite of a guy. Johan Santana, right? If Johan Santana lost the control of a pitch, he would go to another pitch and dial that pitch in so perfect that he's unhittable, right? Like if Santana lost his fastball, well, you already know the changeup is about to become elite because his mental focus to, if he lost this one, go to another one and just dominate with that. Christian Scott is not there yet. Christian Scott is not there yet. Christian Scott's fastball, the movement on it is, for a guy that doesn't have maybe an elite fastball in terms of velocity, somehow it's hard to describe, because guys that throw 100, you would expect them to be hard to hit, right? Christian Scott is probably 96, 97, and it's impossible to hit until it does get hit, and it's gone. Like Christian Scott's thing is the home run ball. If we can keep Christian Scott in the park, he may be a key part of the rotation. Armand, I'm with you. I'm with you. This is what I think they're gonna do. But I think he has what you call elite arm talent. It's the reason why the Mets hadn't given up on that prospect Matt Allen yet. Y'all remember Matt Allen, the prospect? The Mets paid him $3 million as a third-round pick because he had elite arm talent, but he's injury prone. They didn't give up on him because he has elite arm talent. Like, he has talent in his arm that the pitching program can't. You know, certain guys have so much arm talent that putting them in a pitching program only keeps them healthy, basically. Yeah. David Smith is in the building, says Sandy Alcantara returning for Tommy John for the Marlins. Yeah. And Joe, this is what, so Christian Scott basically got healthy at the end of last year. I think he was deemed healthy, or as healthy as a pitcher from returning from surgery can be, I think it's like late last August or September. And what they chose to do is to hold him out and let him continue to build up his arsenal, so to speak. And so I heard somewhere where somebody said, I can't remember exactly. Y'all know I like to give credit to the source. I'm not an insider, so I scour the internet for news and stuff, kind of like how everybody else does. But I heard someone say that Christian Scott may have developed like he's got like 6 pitches. So I think they're saying Christian Scott may have 6 pitches, which blows my mind, especially since I've known him as a fireballer. But all that stuff about Christian Scott aside, the thing I was mentioning about Jonah Tong is this, like, and McLean, like both of those guys are going to be great Major League Baseball pitchers, right? Hopefully both will do it for the Mets, right? Hopefully both will do it for the Mets, right? The thing is, though, depending on how things go in the World Baseball Classic for McLean, we may need to kind of insulate his confidence. At the same time, if things go exceptional, if the best case scenario occurs, say Noah McLean is one of the best pitchers on the planet, then how can you not give him the opportunity to show that he's one of the best pitchers on the planet? And I know that sounds like hyperbole, best pitchers on the planet. Well, they're playing in a World Baseball Classic. You know what I'm saying? So they're playing in a World Baseball Classic. So, and Armand says on his Baseball Savant page, Scott throws a four-seamer, a sweeper, slider, and a split. Okay. Maybe the person I saw, I don't know. Let me put it this way. I haven't seen Scott pitch in so long. I don't know what he has. And maybe the source that I heard is not reliable. Maybe I'm a gullible Mets fan, or maybe the page hadn't been updated. Basically what I'm saying is I can't wait to see Christian Scott either way. Right? I can't wait to see Christian Scott, Jonah Tong, Noah McLean, and all the young guys. Speaking of young guys, I've been itching to have the conversation with y'all about Vientos and Beatty. Like, I legit think we have to have the Vientos and Beatty conversation, and an honest one too, right? In an honest conversation, right? I'm gonna tell y'all something. I'm gonna just be honest with you, right? As someone that played at the high school was my highest level, so I didn't play baseball in college. Yeah, I'm a military guy, so I didn't play baseball in college, right? But was a decent high school baseball player. One of the things that I know, one of the things that I know baseball coaches don't want to do is take a guy, right? Hey, Armand, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. What I know that what baseball coaches don't like doing is taking a guy that is great at one defensive position and put him in a different defensive position because another guy can hit. I'll give you an example. Right? Give you an example. If you have a team that has Cecil Fielder and Frank Thomas. I know they don't play for the same team. I'm just using them for an example. Right? Just using them for an example. If you have a team that has, I'm sorry, not even Frank Thomas and Cecil Fielder. If you have a team that has, I'm going to use a better example. If you have a team that has Cecil Fielder and Will the Thrill, right? If you have a team that has Cecil Fielder and Will the Thrill, right? But Cecil Fielder says, I want to play first base. Do you take Will the Thrill Clark off of first base and teach him how to play right field? In my mind, absolutely not. In my mind, absolutely not. Right. And so with that question, that very loaded question that I asked, do you take the best defensive third baseman on the roster in Brett Baty and teach him how to play a position that you know he might not be a net neutral? He's not going to be a net positive for sure. He may not be a net neutral, but you're going to teach him to play a position because a guy that can hit wants to play third base. In my mind, listen, I love Bo Bichette, and I've loved Bo Bichette for years. I liked his pops. I loved Dante Bichette, right? I loved Dante Bichette for first time I laid eyes on him, right? My only thing is his pops wasn't a defender. Bo Bichette's not a defender. DJ wasn't a defender. But in order to accommodate for Bo Bichette, you'll teach Bo Bichette a new position, third base, right? He wasn't a great defender at short, right? Right. And Joe, I'm gonna get to this part, right? I'm gonna get to that. Hey, Christopher, what's good, man? In my mind, changing Brett Baty's position only ensures that the defense at third is going to be shaky at best, right? It's going to be shaky at best because you're putting a non-defender at a new position and hoping for success. So the guy wasn't a good defender at any of the other positions, shortstop, second, you move him to third, which is a new position, and then you hope that he can hold it down and learn how to play it. Now, I understand why the decision was made. The decision is made because Bo Bichette may not have signed here if you didn't promise him a spot on the dirt. He may not have signed. And would I blame him if he didn't sign? No, I wouldn't. I'm not going to blame him if he didn't sign. Right? But Brett Baty has proven at second base and at third base that on the dirt, he can be a really good defender. We didn't think that at first. We thought Ronnie Mauricio would be the more athletic, versatile defender if you gave him opportunities to play in other positions, right? Come to find out, Ronnie Mauricio, maybe not that. Mauricio is probably more of a shortstop, third base, really strong arm guy, good glove, may have mental lapses on defense at times. Maybe once or twice a year he'll have a mental lapse, right? But outside of that, Mauricio is a decent fielder. I didn't think personally that Brett Baty would be athletic enough. And it's not about looks. So I'm not judging Baty on looks. I'm judging Baty on the fact that since day one that I saw him, he was a third baseman. And third basemen generally have a certain type. Like third baseman, you generally don't put third baseman in the outfield and expect them to be elite corner outfield prospects. Right? You just don't, because third basemen are a certain archetype. But the fact that Baty can play third and can play second, I gave rise to maybe Baty is more athletic than or more fluid of an athlete than we anticipate. Right? But the thing about the outfield and not about the infield is while you don't get as many attempts, the baseball and the baseball does different stuff, right? When you play third, the ball's hit right at you. You're worried about the speed of the baseball, right? First thing you at third, they call it the hot corner because things come down there hot, right? Right. But when you say if you're playing right field against a right-handed batter, the ball spins to you different, right? Right-hand batter hits the ball to right field. The ball seems to have more like a crescent shape to you, where you have to anticipate the flight of the ball in that crescent shape type of way that it makes its way to you. And then on windy days or on wet days, the ball has like a different path in the air. And then it's all about your depth perception. Like how you see the ball off the bat, flight of the baseball, what's the wind doing to it? How much room do you have to the wall? How far are you away from the bases? Where's your cutoff man? Can the center fielder get to it? Am I the catch guy or the backup guy? Like all these different things. And these are things that you have to learn through tons of repetition. This is not like just put Francisco Alvarez in left. Nah, it's not like that at all. It's not that at all. It's these guys in the outfield get such great jumps when the ball is hit that when you see a guy not getting a great jump, you're like, oh my gosh, this dude can't play out there. Soto, in my mind, doesn't get great jumps on the baseball, right? And while he has a decent arm, it's not the arm that you want for right field, right? So Soto's moving to left. That's a different conversation. Or that's a different topic, not a different conversation. So my thing with Beatty is, why do you teach Polanco to play first when Beatty can be your everyday first baseman and Polanco can DH? That way you don't have to teach guys to do many different things. Now, mind you, you and I, all of us, we don't know what happens inside the Mets clubhouse. We don't know if Polanco said, hey, listen, though, I want to play defense. I'm not a full-time DH yet, right? You don't know if Polanco said DHing is for old men yet. That might be the reason why Pete is gone, because Pete didn't want to be the full-time DH, right? In my mind, I feel as if the defense is better with Beatty at third, Lindor at second, Simeon at let me see, Lindor at short, Simeon at second, and whoever's at first. All right, Wandy Diaz, I guess. Right. But what does that do for Bo Bichette and Jorge Polanco? We paid a ton of money to them. We're probably paying them over. We're paying over $60 million for those two for bats alone. Right? We're not paying $60 million a year for their defense. We're paying for their production at the plate. But what does that mean for Beatty and for Vientos? In my mind, Beatty is a better player and prospect than Jacob Reimer. In my mind, I don't think the Mets have a better third base prospect in their pipeline than what Brett Beatty is as a young veteran. In my mind, we're looking at Brett Beatty that can probably be a Mike Moustakas type impact for the Mets. Right? I think Brett Beatty, if sewn in at third base over the next 10 years or so, can have a Todd Zeal-like impact at third base. For those that remember Todd Zeal, I think Brett Beatty reminds me of Robin Ventura. And I know that seems like a stretch. I know that seems like a stretch. But it's only a stretch because the Mets before this moment has been wild. As an organization, we've been wildly inconsistent. Right? As an organization, we've been wildly inconsistent. Right? And I'm not saying that I'm anti-Mets. I'm saying right now we're getting into a place where we're settling into being the franchise that we should be. You know, and at a minimum, a 90-win team, because the Mets are going to spend a lot of money, and Steve Cohen is going to spend a lot of money on resources, stuff outside of salary, like facilities and all this stuff that the owners pay for, like swag, all this stuff, retiring them, all these things that great owners do. Steve Cohen is going to pay for that, and you're not going to see that stuff show up on payroll. I'm talking about operating expenses, right? Because you can be a great owner and have great operating expenses and don't spend money on payroll and be the Minnesota Twins, right? Or you can spend money on payroll and maybe not operating expense and be the Boston Red Sox. And so when you factor in my mind, when you factor all of that in to the development of Beatty, Mauricio, Vientos, Alvarez, the young center fielder, I forget the young center fielder that came up in that group. He wound up being Alex Ramirez. He wound up being a bust. I don't know if y'all remember the prospect Alex Ramirez. He was supposed to be the next Carlos Beltran, but he couldn't hit. And so he's a bust. Right. But that group, there was a group of, and I'll say their names again. It was right after this group was drafted and signed, right after the Dominic Smith. So there was a Dominic Smith, Ahmed Rosario. I forget who the other guy is. We traded him in that Lindor deal also. Jimenez. So there was Andres Jimenez, Dom Smith, Ahmed Rosario, that group of young players, right? Like that were like 22, 23 years old. And then there was an 18-year-old group that was Matt Allen, Alex Ramirez, Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, and that group of young prospects, right? So, and Ahmad Rosario, Andres Jimenez, Dominic Smith were all that group of young prospects right behind Zach Wheeler and Matt Harvey and all those guys. So basically what I'm saying is over the years, the Mets as an organization has been up and down with payroll and talent and all that stuff. But at the same time, guys like Brett Beatty, basically to get down to brass tacks, I don't think those guys have been given a fair shot. I don't think they've been given a fair shot. Right? Vientos wasn't given a fair shot. Beatty wasn't given a fair shot. But professional sports is not a place where things need to be fair. You get an opportunity and you may only get one. And if you don't take advantage of it, you may be a journeyman Major League Baseball player that just makes a life out of baseball. But if you do take advantage of your opportunity, you may become an all-star and a franchise player for your team. And that's why I think Brett Beatty is. Like, Brett Beatty going to be a staple of New York Mets baseball for years to come? I'd like to get your opinion on whether y'all think Mauricio Vientos and Brett Beatty are going to be staples of this New York Mets organization for years to come, or are they going to be trade pieces to acquire even more talent, more veteran talent, to put in place for this World Series run? In my mind, and just to give y'all my opinion, in my mind, I'd like to keep Brett Beatty only as a starter. If Brett Beatty is a platoon player, bat off the bench type guy, trade him for something, and reset the clock for Beatty. Reset the clock for Beatty, Mauricio, and Vientos. Joe asked, "Do you think we have too many infielders?" Joe, I'll be honest with you, bro. I don't think we have enough infielders. But here's why I say that. I don't think Bo Bichette's defense should count. I think Bo Bichette, until he proves otherwise, is an everyday bat, but not an everyday defender. Jorge Polanco is an everyday bat, but not an everyday infielder, in my mind, just in my opinion. Right? Brett Beatty is an everyday defender, but maybe not an everyday bat. He has to prove that he is. Right? Mark Vientos is an everyday bat, but not an everyday infielder. And this is why we have the glut that we have. Like, it's the reason why Acuna is not here. Because Acuna is an everyday defender and playmaker, but he's not an everyday bat. Would I be interested in moving Vientos, Beatty, Mauricio for everyday infielders or an everyday outfielder? Absolutely. I think they have more value, though, than the everyday outfielders that'll be on the market. Like, I'm not trading Mark Vientos for Steven Kwan. Because I already, in my mind, I think Mark Vientos would be a Jim Thome type bat in Cleveland. Right? You remember Jim Thome went through the same thing in Cleveland. Remember, Jim Thome was the third baseman when they had Paul Sorrento, but he couldn't play third, but he could hit. And then he was the first baseman after Sorrento left to go to Seattle. Right? For those that remember Paul Sorrento, and if you're not a baseball sieve like myself, I apologize. I just remember random names. Like I remember random names like Keith Mullen and Gary Maddox and Oscar Gamble, Rick Cerrone and John Stearns. I just remember random names, man. So if that's not y'all, then I apologize, right? But when it comes to the infield situation, if we're talking about infield defense, I think our infield defense starts and ends with Lindor and Simeon. Right? I think that's where it ends. Now, at third base, when we're talking about Bo Bichette, we had to accommodate Bo Bichette because he's in that opt-out situation. Right? You want Bo Bichette to be a Met for a long time. It's kind of like the ideal situation for the Mets is if Juan Soto was a DH. Right? The ideal situation for the Mets is if Juan Soto was the DH right now, and we could put two defenders out, another defender out there with Carson Bench and Luis Robert. defense is off the chain. But Soto doesn't want to be an everyday DH. Soto wants to be an outfielder. So he's moving left to kind of compromise, right? He's kind of compromising with the Mets. Like, I move to left, man. If y'all leave me alone, like, just let me hit. And yeah, I'm with you on this. But then here's the thing. How much more controllable pitching do you need? Right? Say if you have McLean and Tong, right? If you have McLean and Tong, right? And you think within the next year or two, they're going to be staples in your rotation. And then you front sign Freddie Peralta to an extension. But you also have 5 other veteran starters that you could put in 2 other spots. This is where David Stearns did a great job, and this is where sometimes answering all the questions only leads to asking more questions. And and you read my mind. This is what I was thinking when I actually asked you. But at the same time, what do you do with that stockpile of talent until someone does get hurt? That's what I was thinking, like, when I was asking you that. So what do you do with Jonathan or whoever until that day when someone does get hurt? And so am I suggesting that the Mets need to do a blockbuster trade for an outstanding major league talent? I'm not suggesting that, but if the opportunity is there, you're always supposed to be thinking that. Right? Like, say for instance, the Phillies need to shed salary and they want to trade Bryce Harper. Right? Say Philly needs to shed salary and they feel like Brett Beatty can give them the same production as Bryce Harper, but for $30 million less. If you're the Mets, do you consider that? I don't. Right? Say Philly is like, you know what? We'll do Bryce Harper for Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio because they want to shed salary, but they feel like what they're going to bring in can provide more than what Bryce Harper can give. If you're the Mets, do you consider that? I don't. I know. I know. The only way they would trade with the Mets is if they gave us Juan Samuel for Lynn Dykstra. That's it. Anything outside of that, they would never do it, bro. I know. I know. But I was only using Bryce Harper as the example of Philly wouldn't trade with the Mets, and the Mets wouldn't trade with the Phillies. Why would the Mets make life easier for the Phillies? They wouldn't. Because Philly's whole job is to make life difficult for the Mets. So I mean, I get that part. I do understand. The Phillies are a mess. Yeah, no, okay. So let me find a better example. Not Bryce, but maybe a better example. Or a different example. The shortstop in San Diego. What's the shortstop in San Diego? He was killing it in Boston. He got traded to San Diego, and now he can't hit. Not Devers, the other one, Bogarts. if the Padres said, "Hey, we'll give you Xander Bogaerts for Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio," would you do it? If I'm the Mets, no. Why would I trade for a guy that's going to bat 260? Oh yeah, he did sign as a free agent. That's right. But if you're the Mets, why would I trade Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio for Xander Bogaerts and the rest of that contract? I wouldn't. But the reason why I brought up Bogaerts and Harper is because if I'm not willing to trade them, right, this is right, exactly, Armand, exactly. Why would I trade for that contract and he's going to bat 260, 265, hit maybe 17 or 18 home runs and play questionable infield defense? Why would I trade Mauricio, Beatty, and Vientos for that? But here's the thing. If I feel like they're more valuable than the upside or downside of a veteran with a huge contract that's going to put up similar production, why don't I just play those kids then? Like if I feel like over the next 10 years Beatty is going to be better than Bogaerts, why don't I just play Beatty? Or Vientos. If I feel like Vientos, if I trade Vientos to the Rockies or the Diamondbacks, right? If I feel like trading Mark Vientos to the Diamondbacks for Ketel Marte, and he'll go to that that mall parking lot of a stadium and hit 45 home runs every year, why won't I just play Vientos then as a Met? And I'm not saying this is exactly how I feel. I feel like this is a logical stance to even think about or talk about. Like if these three youngsters are too valuable as a threesome in a package to give away for a high-priced veteran on a big contract, why don't I just play them? Because and here's the reason why we're in a sticky situation with it is because Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio have veterans in them that are proven veterans. Bo Bichette is a proven veteran. Jorge Polanco is a proven veteran, right? Marcus Semien is a proven veteran. But the unfortunate part for Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio is they don't have time to wait on the bench because running up their back is AJ Ewing, Jacob Reimer, and other prospects that are going to want to play. The Mets are going to need to play within the next year or two. Right? Regardless what Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio do, AJ Ewing is a stud. AJ Ewing is maybe a year and a half from being an everyday guy. And I know that sounds hyperbole. Listen, I don't want to overstate my opinion of AJ Ewing, but I personally feel like he's a star. I think the outfield of AJ Ewing and Carson Bench is a thing. And I'm sorry if I overstepped or whatever, but I feel like Bench and Ewing in the outfield is a thing. Right? But what does that mean for these three kids that we have right now? What do we do? And honestly, Armand, Armand, you gotta let me. Yo, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there, bro. I'm going as fast as I can, bro. I promise. I promise. I'm trying to get I'm trying to get there. Like I'm trying to get to these other kids. Basically, since I have to fast forward, basically what I'll say is this. Those three guys are stuck in no man's land because the prospects that are running up their back may have higher upside than they do based on the position that they play. Right? Like these kids that are running up their back, like Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio, may create a bottleneck. Right? They may create a bottleneck, but is it a good bottleneck? Maybe. Is it a good bottleneck? Probably not. It depends on the way that you view it. Right? It depends on the way that you view it. But at the same time, that means 2025 is a season where if they don't do something, you may have to the front office may have to make a move. And it's not only that for the position players, but I think we're feeling that same energy. We're feeling that same energy and vibe for pitchers like Kodai Senga, Clayton Holmes, right? There's so much young pitching on the way in the Mets pipeline that we may have to make some moves. And for the record, everyone, I'm not for trading all the time, right? I'm for figuring it out. I'm pro figure it out, right? Not pro trade. Now, for those of you that are pro trade, I don't have a thing against y'all. I'm just saying I just have a difference of opinion. I just have a difference of opinion based on experience in the way that I view things. Wow, this 90 minutes flew. Y'all, this 90 minutes flew by. And I can't believe I talked for like 90 minutes straight back to back. I still have like 3 hours worth of stuff I want to talk about, but I can't. Right? It's Valentine's weekend, and I'm supposed to be doing responsible adult Valentine's stuff. Thank y'all for coming through and hanging out, man. The conversation. I enjoyed the conversation more than y'all did, whether y'all realize that or not. And I appreciate y'all coming through and hanging out. Thank you, everybody, for coming through and watching the Mets Lounge, the New York Mets Lounge. Again, man, I'm Uncle Freezy. Thank y'all for coming through. Peace, everybody.